Good. Well, welcome back. Welcome back to the TRANSCOM show. The whole purpose of the TRANSCOM show is to try to share with the entire enterprise, both locally and out on DCS, an opportunity to have touch points with leadership to understand what's going on within the command, kind of where we're going. This time it's going to be a little bit unique. I tried to print up Mr. McMillin's bio, but in this paperless Air Force that we're supposed to be working at, I would have had to print up a tree, was worth of paper to get to his bio. But we're very, very fortunate to have Mr. Dan McMillin with us today. We're going to talk a little bit about his experiences and the way forward after a very, very long career in the United States government. And so, Dan, I really appreciate you being here today. So please join me. Okay. So there's some newcomers in the crowd and out on DCS that may or may not have had the pleasure of meeting you yet. So can you tell us just a little bit about yourself, Dan, and kind of where you're from and kind of how you got here?
First of all, thanks for being here. There's a lot of demands on your time, a lot of options. You could be at work. You could be watching the Kavanaugh hearings at this point. But we checked, and C-SPAN had a tough decision to cover this or cover that. They're covering that, so you can watch it taped later. Okay, so it's okay that you're here. Thanks for everything you do every day. One of the reasons I'm back here is can you think of a better mission than TRANSCOM? No. So thanks for your contributions every day to that. 35 years of experience. Across a bunch of different disciplines. And you can read my bio and read what all that is, but I'm just going to sum it up by saying I've been in SES for 20 years. The last 9 have been at the 3-star level. And I've learned a lot. I've seen a lot of successes, a lot of failures, a lot of failures that would be successes today when you look back of why they were failures in the past. And so I have a lot of information to share with people. Not a lot of how-to, but a lot of questioning and a lot of, hey, this is what happened in the past. This is why it happened. This is why it happened again today, or why, due to technology or whatever, it might be a different outcome today. And so I just want to get basically right to the questions you have, and try and impart any of that on all of you. Okay?
Well, thanks, Dan. I appreciate it. And the fact that you're here speaks volumes about people taking advantage of opportunities that are given. In the military members are used to being on rotational assignments. Our civil service corps are not as used to that, but those folks that take advantage of those incredible opportunities like yourself, having been from Illinois, gone to DC area, and then had the opportunity to come back twice now, has been, I think, tremendous. So I'll start off with the first one, if you don't mind, and that's what's the best advice you received that helped you achieve success in your career? We've all had mentors. Well, what's the best advice you received as perhaps a young civil servant?
Yeah, so we so we cheated a little, and they gave me the questions, right? So I'm going to read some things, just some thoughts, and then if you have particular questions to poke more at it, or if I feel like it, we can go deeper on them. But just some phrases here, right? So work-life balance, huge, lot of often. And so again, when you ask early on in your career, it's really about advice you get all the way across, because one of the other ones is you're really not as smart as you think you are. And you're not. None of us are, right? Every experience you get, you're smarter. And so I am way smarter than I was when I was Rick Marsh. Okay, Rick Marsh is a brilliant guy. I had that job 20 years ago. Okay, I'm way smarter than him. Okay, only because of the hard knocks and experiences I've had since then. Okay, he's a lot smarter than I was then, but glad you're here. Okay, so you're not as smart as you think you are. Real important. And that will always make you do the Bruce Bustler thing and try and get down to the real facts of things, right? Not opinions, facts. You're not as smart as you think you are. You have to take care of your own career. You do. Some career, you may get a lot of help, but you may not. So you always have to be mindful, am I taking care of myself? It's my career, it's not Bruce's, it's not Dalton's, it's not any of yours. It's my career, and I have to take ownership of what I want to be when, and I have to own that. And then you leverage a bunch of other people. Get advice. I got advice early of you need mentors. And you do throughout your whole, absolutely your whole career. And those are mentors, up, down, and sideways. And we could talk all day about how I feel about mentors, but what they do for you. Achieve diversity of experience. Now, back when I first heard that, it wasn't that catchphrase, right, of diversity of thought, diversity of experience. But it was told me right from the beginning, if you do want to go up the chain, you can't be stovepiped. You have to get experience in several different things. And if you look at my bio, I've really taken that to heart. Do your job. Your job. If someone else isn't doing their job on the J staff, be a demanding customer of that directorate. Don't do their job. Do your job. These PDs are written for a reason. This is how much a person can do. You can't do more. You've got to do that. And so do your job. And for supervisors, get out of their way. Supervising is not fun, okay, unless you're a masochist. But anyway, one of the biggest things I had to learn early was when you move up, 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 you cannot do those fun things that you really enjoyed in that last job. Someone else has to do that. Yeah, but I'm better at it. It doesn't matter. And oh, by the way, remember, you're not as smart as you think you are. But you have to give up those things to the people that you're supervising. And I've had a lot of experience in that. And so there's a lot of headquarters entities. There's a lot of SAF, DA, Department of the Navy, where those people in the ivory tower are doing field jobs because they're fun, because they're good at it. But I learned a long time ago, because people taught me, you have to let go when you step up. You got to let people below you do it, and you've got to let other people that actually have that 90-dash responsibility, let them do that. And be a demanding customer. So those are just some thoughts of things that advice, counseling, not just as a young airman, but every step of the way.
Well, I know.
Any comments on that?
Nothing.
Okay.
Well, I realize that this is a unique position to bring a 3-star level civilian back to TRANSCOM, but General McDew continues to mentor, and I know you've mentored him over the years as well. I think mentoring goes both ways, wouldn't you argue?
Absolutely.
That we get that. So the fact that you were willing to come back here to an organization that you knew could use the assistance. I know that I personally have received lots of mentoring, and I'm a civil servant, as many of you know. I'm a civil servant myself when I'm not doing this, and so it's just invaluable. And I can't thank you enough for what you've done for all of us in providing that mentorship. So what do you now see as you're facing the twilight of your career? What do you see that's facing the biggest challenges facing DoD that we're up against?
Yeah, the first classic one, right, is emerging threats. And you all hear that resonates with you. If you say that on the Air staff or the Navy staff or the Army staff, okay, but we live it, right? So we have to address that and change how our requirements, et cetera, to address that emerging threat. And this organization is all over it, way more than most organizations. And so I see that as the biggest challenge for DoD of this big monolith. How do you shift energy, resources associated with requirements, addressing that emerging threat? But I don't want to spend much time on that other than I think we are going about it the right way in TRANSCOM. I think the innovation, reinvigoration of the innovation effort, whatever you want to call that, cell or whatever, is really important in that regards to get ahead of things and to help inform and put the proper questions into studies that Mr. Bustler does on for the MCRS and those things, and the teamwork between the J2 and the Intel community with the mobility community, I think is just critical in addressing those emerging threats. So I don't want to spend a lot more time on that, but that clearly is DoD's biggest challenge, is emerging threats and getting ahead of them instead of lagging. Mm-hmm. Second one is, and it's a classic one, it's budget battles, the budget, spending limited resources on the right things. And the way I bring that home here is the impact of CRs on, not necessarily on us because the working capital fund allows us to continue, but it affects all our customers and their ability to pay us and their ability to do their workload management from day one on October 1 and actually have a standard repeatable process that makes sense of executing through the year as opposed to having to start December or December 7th if the CR goes through, or later, or a government shutdown, or whatever. So I think the pawn of the budget battles with Congress is going to be a distraction for how well we prepare for the emerging threats out there for DoD. So that's a big one. And I don't see any relief from that anytime soon. The fractured Congress, the polarization on the political ends, it's such a good pawn for them to use to make their points and try and get their way that I think we're going to suffer from that. And so therefore, the more we can put standard repeatable processes in place that assume we're not getting the money until, assume that our our customers aren't getting money until, should drive us to put in place policies that allow us to be as efficient and effective as possible, given the limitations they put on us of when we get our budget. And then the last one is an HR thing, and that is DoD's inability to address the millennial issue of the people after Rick Marsh. Okay, what are we doing about building the next Rick Marshes? He's got a long career ahead of him as a leader, but what about when he's me? Who's in his job 20 years later? Who is that? And where do we get them? And how do we recruit them? How do we retain them? And so we do a very poor job at that. I was sharing with J8, we're doing our talent management within J8, very standard repeatable process to live beyond any people that may be running it, right? Like McMillin. So we were talking about this yesterday. And the Air Force has this civilian continuum. It's great. I was part of putting that together back on the air staff. And it says, hey, you don't have to come in at the bottom, but if you do, here's how you progress, and here's what the Air Force expects from you at every station. But you can come in sideways, and here's what the Air Force would expect if you came in sideways here or here or here. And it's very good. And so that's for Air Force, and then every career field took that and made it specific for the career field. And we all high-fived each other and hugged, and wow, what a great job. And then some of us looked at each other and said, man, this is great for people our age. But hand that to a 21-year-old. First of all, they're going to say, how do I get behind that line? How do I get behind that screen? What's behind that thing right there? Well, nothing. It's a PowerPoint slide. Okay, so we design, even our process improvement stuff, we fail to realize that the civil servant force behind us does not relate to that at all. I see that as a huge challenge for us. The military, the uniformed military, does not have this challenge. We hire 17-year-olds, and they're there. They're in the workforce immediately, huge responsibility. They go get their bachelor's while on, and we don't have the civilian workforce does not put the same emphasis on bringing in youth and turning the ones that should be leaders into leaders. and letting the ones that aren't going to be leaders work at their level and be great contributors. We don't do that well at all in the civilian workforce. And it's really coming home to roost with the millennial gap. We're really seeing it right now. There's a huge vacuum. I think that's the biggest challenge, and I see that as a huge challenge for TRANSCOM.
Do you also believe that this isn't part of our prepared questions, but as I think about, we deal here at TRANSCOM in a Air Force civil servants, primarily at TRANSCOM. SDDC is dealing with Army civil servants. Our intel community is dealing with a separate set. So breaking down those barriers that would allow folks to transition easier between and have one civil service versus, you think that would be also an advantage?
Yeah, nirvana is, so if I could describe it just slightly differently than one civil service. If we had a government HR process that the desired outcome was right person, right job, right time, fully qualified, no matter where they came from, right? So the HR function needs to do that. How we get there, we got a long road ahead of us, right? Because the other challenge DOD, in my opinion, has is we don't value the HR process. We don't value HR in the civilian realm. That's where the first cuts go, to the J1s, the N1s, the A1s, okay? And then we complain about their service as service providers. They're the first ones we cut every single time when you look back on history. Support functions, and that one in particular. So as far as how can we get to that intended outcome, I would recommend what we're doing in J8 is we're leveraging the career field to do that for us. So we're putting pressure on SAF FM, career field for all FMers, to include Army in our stuff, Army FM, in their processes for selecting for joint jobs. The Navy, including them in their processes. Ensuring that if we send someone off to the Navy, their DT still has hooks on them, and is still keeping track of them. Because we're telling our, go work at SDDC. Come back, you'll be a better J8er if you do that type of thing.
Yeah, I think
and so I think it has to be a grassroots effort at this point by functional area.
Yeah.
And we have a problem there with the ops community because there's not really good functional career programs. The Air Force has really, really struggled with the ops community. It's still in its infancy, despite several stops and starts. And so we've got a real long ways in getting there. I think if senior leadership continually speaks the mantra of right person, right job, right time, fully qualified, I think they will demand, well, where's that cross-service list?
Yes.
If we get leadership to start doing that instead of what's the fastest way to get someone in this job?
Absolutely.
So.
No, I agree. So. Any questions from outside before I continue? Yes, sir.
He doesn't need that mic.
It's just people in DCS and Korea can't hear me. Okay. Unlike our adversaries or industry, it's been touted that DoD is a little bit slow to evolve, and some people would say that it's some of that problem is because we have somewhat archaic or inflexible budget acquisition systems. So, if you agree with that statement and you were king for a day, what would you change?
I'd blow it up. Yeah, you know, if I were king for a day, I would hire and empower people from private sector to come in, and I'd blow everything up. And I'd start from scratch. Acquisition, budgeting, requirements, marketing, hiring, everything. Unfortunately, we've got a bus that's DOD, okay? And we need something that flies. And we're trying to put wings on this bus. And you can pick any functional area you're talking about. Okay, you talk about the budget. Who in the private sector does this thing called PPB the way we do it? Nobody. Nobody does it that way. Who does requirements the way we? Nobody does it. So, and yet, our idea of changing it is getting the bureaucrats who have done it forever to make it better. So they say, well, where would you put the wings on this bus? Let's try this. And then it gets shot down, or it tries and it fails. So there's no magic wand king for a day here. It is blow it up. And I would challenge any of you, pick any of your functional areas and say where that is not required. I mean, look at TMS. Okay? We are killing ourselves. Herculean efforts on the part of individuals to convince people this is what we have to do. The private sector would not do this. They would do it, and they would succeed. So, you know, I think we're going to succeed with TMS because of the way we're going about it. It's a methodology. It's a process. It's .MLPF we're attacking, not shiny objects. And I really give a lot of people credit for attacking it that way. But it should not be this hard. It should not be this hard. And it's not in the private sector.
Great, thanks. Mr. Jones.
Did I address that?
Unfortunately, I think Congress puts rules and regulations, and we had so many IGs. It's hard to blow up something. I don't know if the bomb's big enough to blow it, make it happen. They said they were going to split up 18L to try to do that, but I don't see. You're right. The same people trying to change it it doesn't seem that we'll ever get there.
I'm the eternal optimist. I think we will. I think we're going about it the wrong way of nickel and diamond things. Okay, I think big, bold changes are the way to go. And pick your function every 3 years and do it. Then go on to the next one and do it. And do it in a prioritized fashion with fundamental change, and do not let the bureaucracy stop you.
Mr. Is this on? Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. McMillin,
what's your name?
My name is Pete Gavornik, and I just want to emphasize that you're no longer my boss. The SF-50 has been cut. It's already been signed. It's in my records, so you can't put anything in my mid-term counseling when I ask this first question, first of two questions. So, first question is, bare your soul, if you would, share what you would consider your biggest professional failure. Gosh darn, why did I do that? You know, what was that thing that you could not sleep for nights worried about, thinking about, whatever? And how did you professionally and personally recover from your mistake? That's the first of two questions.
Okay. Letting Pete Gavornik go to TMS. I still bolt awake in bed, and what were you thinking, McMillin? Okay. There's no single one. You know, I've been very fortunate. You know, I made a lot of mistakes, but people make mistakes. And I was never never put in a position where it cost a life. You know, so I don't have that the military, you know, you have to ask those kinds of questions. So I've never put in that. So, but over the years, being impatient, you know, I think that's been part of my success. And it's so I got, you know, at my retirement, it'll be packed, okay, with lovers and haters, okay. And we're having a discussion in J8 of more haters and lovers, or, you know, make sure I leave or what, you know. But I'm a driver. You know, you take the personality test. I'm a driver. And so that comes across as impatient, and I am impatient at times. And the older I got, the more impatient I've gotten with middle management of their lack of leadership, and their lack of progress, and their lack of accepting responsibility. And that has come out, and I regret that. Does that answer it?
Not exactly. There's got to be something where you said a mistake where you did something, and I have no knowledge, you know, You did something. We all have done something that we said, oh my gosh, my boss is going to fire me, or it's going to be a bad thing for me along the way. Something you did, and how did you adjust to that? Your answer.
Not really mistakes that, okay. You know, I mean, you make mistakes. I did challenge a 3-star at the time. I was his deputy or associate director or whatever. And we were in front of the 4-star, the vice chief of the Air Force, and I called him out because I thought I had to, of not representing the Air Force. He was in, it was during QDR, and I thought he was not representing the Air Force adequately enough at the time, and had gone native DOD. And the vice agreed with me and chastised the boss. I didn't sleep that night, but nothing really happened other than the guy doesn't talk to me today. But there are tough things I've done.
That's the right thing to do.
But not things that I still don't sleep over or I didn't get over right away. So that's another thing of advice from mentors, right? Get over it. You know, I mean, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to, if you're in this job for people to like you, you're going to have some trouble.
Yeah.
Now, the job that did make me bolt up in bed every night was when I was a SAPCO for the Air Force, when I was in charge of all the SAP programs and all the security, top secret, not way above top secret stuff. That was I've had great jobs. One of my most enjoyable jobs, and the one that was the most stressful job. Of dreams of, you know, this handsome face on the front page of the Washington Post, you know, for spilling national secrets. Yes. Or, did I talk in my sleep? Honey, did I say anything last night?
Right.
So that was the job that I slept the least. It really wore on me, that job. So, but I'm sorry I can't answer your question.
Okay, no, that's fine. But I did have a second question that's more positive. The answer should not include you're a driver. You've already answered that, or you already shared that. Go back to pre-SES days, if you could. What were the personal skill sets that you think helped you go to that next level, that next promotion, get that next good job? What kind of personal type of skill sets?
So almost all those things from advice from leaders I got before I was in SES. Most all of them were then confirmed and, you know, drilled further into me. But I would say the diversity of experience, when you look at my bio, the things I did before and through being a 15 is what made me more than qualified to become an SES. Very similar to Rick Marsh's bio. And I make that point. You know, it's what's attractive about going to the next step, critical thinking, thinking across career fields, thinking across disciplines, understanding how the Air Force deals with the Army and the Navy because you're in a joint job. You understand the joint world. You understand what it means to deal with coalitions. All those things, you're able to put them together into a coherent picture of DOD. And the sooner you can do that, the more effective you're going to be at whatever job you're in. And I think that's a fundamental requirement for being an SES, is being able to put that kind of coherent, DOD-wide picture together of how the pieces play, at least at a veneer level. And then you're going to be deeper in some specific areas. Did that answer the question?
Thanks. Appreciate it. So we're quickly running out of time here, but I do want to get to another quick question, Dan. What's been the most rewarding part of the second assignment here at TRANSCOM? You got to see it the movie the first time, and then now back here. What has been the most rewarding?
Yeah, hands down, living on base and walking a block to work. But Rick is going to dime me out. I don't walk to work. Okay, I drive.
Yeah, he gives me a hard time about that too.
I don't even drive to the gym, and it's even closer. But that has brought a whole ton of time to me of not living off base, even though it just be 20 minutes. add that to the hour and a half that I gained from not living in D.C. So I've really enjoyed that time, just time. The people. So good to see old faces, or familiar faces, sorry. Familiar faces from way back, you know, the Lou Bernsteins, et cetera. You know, and seeing him just chugging along and providing support to this mission. And the leadership, right? So it's from looking at the 7, 9s, 11s and going, man, we're fine. You know, that our future is safe. I can retire. But also looking at the other end and looking at, you know, the General Lyons and the Broadmeadows and, you know, where these leaders come from, right? So that's the biggest thing is nothing's changed people-wise. The quality of the people, and we just keep churning them out. With that caveat of, man, we really got to spend more time on bringing millennials in.
That's right.
But that's been very enjoyable, the people. And then progress in so many ways. You know, I come back, left the movie 15 years ago, watched some reruns from a distance, but left the movie, come back, and see where we are with, you know, a couple more UCP missions, changed to SDDC, you know, the steady progress of, okay, TRANSCOM, to now have a coordinator role that we're defining. So seeing that progress across time of the mission of TRANSCOM and the responsibility of TRANSCOM, and most importantly, what's driven that is the recognition of how important the mission is. You know, having the SecDef out here, you know, from work, the first one I heard of 3030 was the DepSecDef work. And I hadn't heard any senior leaders talk about TRANSCOM like that before, okay? And then they just kept flowing through. And so seeing the top cover, which is driving us being able to be bold, and then that's setting the framework for, yeah, let's go do Sprint to the Cloud and ask for forgiveness later. You know, and that's without even having a Navy guy in charge doing that. So that's a joke. All right. But anyway, the boldness of the command, I'm really pleased with. Really enjoying watching the TMS, the Sprint to the Cloud, the MCRS, the pushing the attrition, you know, pushing the things that it's just as Joe McDew would say, no one knows us. Well, they know us now.
Well, sir, I cannot thank you enough. I really appreciate your time, and a big reason they know us now is also because you are regularly in the D.C. area pounding the drum on our behalf, and so I can't thank you and Ellen and your entire family for your many, many years of dedicated service and what you've done for all of us. Every person in this room has some point with you, and I just can't thank you enough for all your mentorship and what you've done over the years, and wish you nothing but the best. November 3rd will be here before you know it. And
it will. It's 36 days, I think.
Yes,
my Kelly has put that up on my screen. I think for their benefit more than mine, okay? But I think it's 36 days.
Yeah. Wow. But thanks again, sir. Really appreciate your time.
So the real reason I'm doing this media tour is I have a new album coming out. And, no, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention 15 October, is that when it is?
Yes.
At the event center.
Yeah.
Will be my going away.
Yeah. Look forward to it, sir.
Thanks
yeah.
again,
thanks
folks,
again.
for everything you do.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot, sir. Join us next month, where Brigadier General Lyman from the J6 will come in and his team and talk a little bit about the CCRI, the results of the CCRI, and how we're going to move forward. So thanks again, Dan. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.